Hello there, everyone. Guardians all over the Earth, more precisely, all over the universe. Or should I more precisely say Guardians all over the multiverse,
Oh, very
as
nice.
we speak. And anyway, here I am, your good old host, Lord of Shadows. As always, everyone get around for another movie review with, of course, my charming associate.
Film Review Central.
Exactly. And today, but at the same time, sadly, we will do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. It's an end of an era, my friend. It's an end
Most
of an era that
most
we
definitely is.
all know ever since 2014. And let me tell you, I'm just gonna say it right now. I will say it right off the bat. I I applaud James Gunn because the way how he delivered. I even did put it in my comments. Like he delivered with this movie and like with a bang of like epic proportions. Like not just simply when it comes to story wise, but emotions, like everything. Like it's a very satisfying conclusion, emotional, but a very satisfying conclusion. So I applaud James Gunn, and I will say right off the bat, I'm not gonna say it for last. I cannot wait to see what he's gonna do with Superman Legacy because after what we saw in Volume 3, I cannot wait for Superman Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that. We could talk about that. I'm sure in great detail. But I think in terms of going into this movie, these characters are absolutely fantastic. Every single character has always had a very memorable moment for me. I remember watching the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie way back in 2014. It was the first MCU movie I did watch in the cinema. I knew nothing about this connective universe, whatsoever. I wasn't that as interested in films as I was now. Civil War was the first time I was really, really paying attention at all of this. But everybody says, "What's the first MCU movie you watched in the cinema?" It's always going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. It's always got a very special place in my heart. Going in then into Volume 2, I was really looking forward to it. Of course, 3 years between them. I have my issues with Volume 2. I do personally. I don't think it is the best MCU movie. But then obviously their involvement in Infinity War and Endgame and sort of their characters in there I thought were fantastic. They really, added some really, monumental moments, and they definitely do stand, their ground. And then obviously you see the poster just that side of me there, just over across from the other side. Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special just over there, and that really brought back the magic. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. What a great decision from Marvel to shut down the Disney Plus streaming service, because you really, really saw the love back for these characters. So going into Volume 3, knowing it was the last one, but as you said, massive applause to James Gunn. And the reason why I agree 100% with what you said about the way he did it, but also I appreciate and respect the commitment. He was already DC head when this movie was going. Obviously, this movie was into production. Obviously, he did the Suicide Squad in between the Guardians movies due to the firing, which we won't talk about. But in terms of the commitment levels of this man, who's the head of a company, a rivaling company, to go in, still feel like he owes it to the fans, to the cast, to the crew that was on their journey with him. That's incredible for a director to do that. Not very many directors would do that in that position. So much of respect to him, and he definitely doesn't go, let's just get this out of the way. Let's just shut this aside. I'm not bothered anymore. He respects exactly what the fans wanted. And in this new multiverse saga that they're building, it has to be up there in top three in terms of my favorite movies within this multiverse saga.
I totally agree with you. Like, not just simply like I would say this right off the bat. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it definitely is not just simply one of my favorite movies when it comes to the MCU next phase, which is the multiverse saga, but also I could definitely see it. Like after seeing it, by the way, twice.
Nice.
It is officially on my top 10. I wouldn't go as far as say it's on my top 5 MCU
Wow.
movies. Like it just simply like I mean it conquered me on every single level when it comes to story wise, humor, emotions, especially emotions. Oh my god! Like the villain, like it had everything I wanted. And one of the things I will say right off the bat, because I know that some critics have a problem with that, but I was thankful for James Gunn and Kevin Feige for allowing it.
Yeah.
That this movie had a serious tone and dark elements. I love that. I love that because that way it showed that James Gunn had a much more freedom to do what he wanted. And again, he delivered. And I think this movie will give a proper send off to James Gunn moving away from the MCU and going to the DC Studios.
It represents Marvel's maturity in what they're deciding to do. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
they are now 15 years into the cinematic universe. You've got so many characters coming in. They have the rights to so many characters. They need to make changes. You look at the Werewolf by Night as a massive indication from last year. That was a 1930s, 40s horror inspired. They could never have done that in phase 1. They could never have done that even in phase 2. That maturing, they're growing up with the fans, growing up with the content. Yes, obviously a lot of the things story perspective, but I remember speaking to Tom, who, if you're a fan of my channel, will know who he is. He's a fantastic editor. He's a really great guy. He said that we're rewatching the MCU at the moment, trying to put them into a tier list, and you watch them. Thank you. And you watch them sort of first earlier movies, and you think, okay, let's go back to when we watched them movies and look at the perspective. Look at the perspective of the MCU there. A lot of people were like, well, what the hell is this leading to? Oh my God, it's leading to the Avengers. Like, we might be ended towards this end of this saga, and moments like this, of the maturity could lean into an incredible, satisfying conclusion where they were just absolutely brilliant. You've got to respect their time. And I respect Marvel's choices, particularly in this movie as well, what they decide to do, the opportunities they give to James Gunn, having really, really shown their maturity levels, really shown exactly what they want to do. And the Guardians are the best group for that.
And I'll even also add, before we go into deep discussion about the movie, I just want to add that so far, when it comes to trilogies, when it comes to the trilogies in the MCU, I mean, like, I cannot believe I'm saying this, like, because my favorite MCU trilogy was always the Captain America trilogy.
Yeah,
that was always my favorite trilogy. Yeah. But now, I'm not sure, but the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, it's actually rivaling with Captain America.
What's your thoughts on Volume 2? What's your thoughts on Volume 2? Because that's always the outlier. Like the same way that first Avenger is the outlier for the Captain Americas. It's one of them where every franchise has that sort of lower down. And that's, for me, that's Volume 2. What are your opinions on that one?
Well, I mean, like, Volume 2, here's the thing. First of all, you have to realize that sometimes it's expected that, when you do a sequel to a movie that was actually very successful, that's, it won't be as perfect as, the first one was. You have to take that in mind, that as well, And yes, even though Volume 2 had some flaws, I mean, personally, I had some like flaws with not flaws, actually. I had some negatives with the movie, that's for sure. But with everything that James Gunn did, with what he brought us, with with the characters, the family elements, new characters, the villain, Yondu, Rocket, Mantis, everything he brought in Volume 2, especially the bond between Star-Lord and Ego. By the way, I just want to say, Ego, the living planet, being his father, I just want to say, I'm really surprised the way how James Gunn handled that. But I will say this, even with everything that Volume 2 has brought me, I just want to say that the negatives I had were actually very nitpicky, So it actually, for me, it delivered more actually than the negatives that I had. So overall, in my point of view, Volume 2 is also great. I mean, is it on the same level as Guardians of the Galaxy 1? No. But it's still a super fun time, great to watch.
Okay, fair
That's at least the way how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously talking about Volume 3, I mean, let's just get straight into that. We've got so much to discuss.
Okay, first and foremost, I'm just gonna put it right off the bat. This movie, just like James Gunn and everyone said, it is definitely Rocket is definitely the center of the movie. I mean, if you look at closely, this Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 movie. It's basically Rocket's story, you know.
Yeah.
And I just love, like, and you kind of expect it to actually, you can actually expect it all the way from the first movie, because through the first movie, especially if you remember that scene when Drax and Rocket were in the bar in nowhere and they were drunk.
Yeah.
And basically, Rocket was saying, like, he was put together over and over and over again and turned him into a monster and all that. Like, from that moment on, you kind of feel that we're actually going to explore Rocket more and more. Because if you look at closely, every single character was explored besides Rocket, And what James Gunn did with him, the way how he explored him, all the way from his origin, how he became Rocket, his relationship with the High Evolutionary and confrontation, and then at the end, what they did. By the way, it's a spoiler review, so if you didn't watch the movie yet, what the fuck you're doing? Go watch it right now. Anyway,
you've been ordered.
Exactly. So in the end, when he was elected the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it felt like a overly satisfying, beautifully completed character arc for him. I mean, they could have added also how he met Groot. They could have added that, but even still, what we got was magnificent. And again, not just simply I mean, we all know Shin Gunn did, the CGI movements of Rocket, but I have to say, with the voice delivery of Bradley Cooper, oh my God, what he did, that was absolutely amazing. Like, an amazing performance when it comes to his voice. Like, it made Rocket a totally complete character.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I was obviously really intrigued about how they were going to do a raccoon, like, in a tree, like, as everybody was. You walk out, you just almost sort of think, like, Rocket is like this standout character, but like you said, it was always felt very much like, it was Drax, obviously, in the first movie with the daughter, the Gamora element. You did always feel like, Rocket was the backdrop, I think, in the first movie particularly. Obviously, in the second movie, you got that opportunity with Yondu. Splitting them apart was obviously a great choice. Actually, in the first Guardians movie, I know we mentioned obviously the drunken incident with Drax and Rocket on Nowhere, but actually when they go into the prison and then they're obviously forced to put on obviously their jumpsuits, but they're the wash and Quill notices on the back. And I just think that is brilliant. That was that first time where you're like, wow, what is this? Like, what's going on? But no, absolutely. I did hear that from overall sources that they were going to do a Rocket and Groot Disney Plus show.
Actually, it was supposed to be a movie, and
was supposed to be a movie.
Yes, James Gunn actually did say that before he decided to bring it into Volume 3, he actually wanted to make like a Rocket and Groot movie to not only explain his origin, but also how Groot and Rocket met. And so that was like his first idea before Volume 3, and then later on, basically, he decided to scrap it and he brought it into Volume 3, and again, he did it beautifully.
But that was a great choice. Like we mentioned, Rocket's past wasn't really much explored. I think it was the best to explore a different character's backstory. Obviously, Quill was a massive central part of both 1 and 2. But I thought that was really great. I thought Rocket's brought that emotion, but you saw parts of his potential. You saw parts of the way he presented himself. It was a completely different flip to the very cocky, arrogant pilot that he was. You do feel like there's that gap of time now where you can see him build up personality. But even that, right at the beginning, he didn't have a personality. He didn't have the attitude, the cockiness. he didn't have the confidence of what he's got now. There's obviously that he's gonna have to learn that obviously when he escaped. But then moments you feel like he was such a broken and tortured person, and that is what really made this movie as emotional as possible, because you felt like this is somebody who's gone through a lot, who doesn't talk about it anybody, and as the Guardians were learning more and more and more about it, you honestly did feel like that's all. That's how friends feel. When you learn a little bit more about people's pasts and the past of your friends' experiences, who they lock that away and don't talk about it. That was such an incredible part, and it's so easy to do it for a character, but when you're doing it for an animal who has been so cocky and arrogant, and you just like you just get on my nerves, like you just like I love that I like you. The fact that they can strip that character back and go, no, this is why. Absolutely fantastic. I thought that the character of Rocket was unbelievable in this movie. That flashback scenes every time, that was the heart, that was the beauty. And I sat there thinking, this is what is keeping me intrigued by this movie, and this is what's keeping me in.
I just want to say before we go to emotions, because I'm really curious what you're gonna say, what your answer will be when it comes to the emotional moments. But before that, I just want to say this: that scene in Volume 2 with Yondu and Rocket, when Yondu was confronting him and saying, like, yo, you sound like you're the meanest, you're the toughest, but actually you're the most scared of all. All the way to like, I know who you are, boy, because you're me.
Yeah.
Everything. I will say this: after you watch Volume 3, that scene with Yondu and Rocket, it hits even harder.
Oh God, yeah. God, yeah.
It hits even harder, especially that time, especially that moment, that point when he says, that just a little bit of love reminds you how that big hole inside you actually is. And even, I know that scientists will make you never give a rat's ass about you. When you hear that, after watching Volume 3 again, it hits differently. It hits harder.
I haven't rewatched the Guardians movies on this rewatch tier list that we're doing.
I'm telling you, when you watch Volume 2, when that scene comes,
pieces, yeah, of course, yeah.
It will hit you differently.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I get that. No, I do understand that. And one of the best things about Rocky as a character is that they kept just drip feeding it in. And like I said, if you were going to do a movie, of course, people would go out there because it's Groot and Rocket together. And like you said, you would have seen the meat and stuff like that. That was very much a project where you're just like, if you're going to greenlight that as a movie, what are you replacing?
Yeah.
In this movie, Rocket was the central heart. Rocket was the purpose. Absolutely.
I mean, everything they did in this movie, from the very beginning all the way to the end, it was all about Rocket, about the Guardians trying to go to High Evolutionary, confront him, and save Rocket's life. Like, everything was about him.
But they made that educated choice where they were just like, we can do that, but then also make it into a Guardians of the Galaxy movie where you've got all the rest of the Guardians. They can all have their really beautiful, interesting moments, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the review. But I just think they made that choice of people are going to think the exact same about Guardians or the Rocket and Groot project, regardless. But why don't we add a little bit extra in and still get the same amount? That's a very, very good decision in my personal opinion. Because like I said, it was all about Rocket, emotional, brilliant. But if you put that in to a movie, you're then taking away other potential moments for really great stuff we'll talk about a bit later.
But I will say this. Now comes to we go to the nitty gritty part where it comes to the emotional parts. I will say first and foremost, the animal friends that Rocket met when he was like with the High Evolutionary, like Lila, Tooth, Floor. First and foremost, like, they are not invented characters for the movie. They actually are in the comic books. Like, they actually exist. And honestly, I thought like like, okay, we're seeing him in the backstory, like how the kind of noticeably it makes Rocket's character more interesting, more complete, but also like the relationship that he, the bond that he created, with his free characters, and then I felt like okay, we're gonna have some backstory, like flashback scenes, and then like we're gonna see them in the present time, dude. When the High Evolutionary killed them all, I did not expect that. I did not expect that. Actually, no. Actually, okay. I was not expecting for Floor and Tooth to die.
Yeah.
But when that Lila scene, when they broke out of the cage, and then like like she's free and they're hugging. Okay. Okay, that's a very traditional moment in movies and TV shows.
If you watch enough,
where,
you know.
Yes,
if you watch as much as we do, you know.
It's like the oldest trick in the book. Like when something like that happens, something bad is gonna happen. But inside my heart, but inside my head, I was like, please don't kill her off. Please don't kill her off. Please don't kill her. Please. And I was like, and then you hear bang, and you're like, why the fuck was I supposed to be right now? I mean, I wish I wasn't. I mean, it hit me. It hit me emotionally, like when you see her die, and I almost cried when he basically turned around and he saw Floor and Tooth died as well. Like it hit me. I didn't cry, but it hit me inside my heart, inside my soul. It hit me.
Yeah,
it really did. And like what he did to the High Evolutionary in that scene. First and foremost, I just want to say, even though I hated the character, but I will say this: when Rocket was screaming, and you see the High Evolutionary going, like congratulations, like I can't remember the number right now, but congratulations, Rocket, you won like the best like cry award, whatever. But when he jumped at him and like was scarring him with the claws, and was like, yes. Like deform this motherfucker, deform him, like yes, like give him what he deserved. But dude, my good old mate, basically, that scene when he was walking towards the light, that destroyed me.
Yeah.
That scene, it made me cry. When he hugged Lila, when he was crying and blaming himself for their deaths and everything, and then he was like walking towards his friends. By the way, I just want to say, in that scene, Chris Pratt gave like one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen him do, like with that screaming no and everything. Like that
was brilliant. Yeah, that was
brilliant. But when he was walking towards them, and she stopped him, and she said, "But not yet. You still have a purpose here." I was like, "Oh my God!" And then she says, my beloved raccoon." I was like, It destroyed me, that scene. That scene destroyed me. But now I want to ask you this question. Did those scenes, especially the light one, did they destroy you?
The light one definitely did. I think, like you said, there was that generic sort of stereotypical thing of like, yeah, they're all going to die now. And I just think it reminded me very much of obviously the way that they thought they were going to lose Groot at the beginning of the first one, and obviously all of his emotion. You and someone, yeah, that's his friend. That's his friend. We've known them throughout the whole movie. But then you do sort of think to myself, like, right, what is he going to do with these? People. There was a part of me when they were with them characters. I thought Lila was like, when obviously they were all coming up with their own names, and I just mean that was such a wholesome. That got to me more than anything. That got to me more than most, because I think that was just sort of like I said, they were just new people. That's all I can say. They were just new people, but they're also people that are forced to change, or they are forced to be this one. But they are just completely different people. But it's that thing where Lila goes first. She says her name. I thought that's a lovely name. Then like Teeves, I thought was quite a good name, like quite appropriate name. But then it did. Honestly, I really struggled not to laugh when she did say Floor. Like that was just big, and just her reasoning for that as well was just like, Because I'm sitting on it, because I'm laying on the floor. Like, they're just wondering, I'm like, I can't laugh. I cannot laugh. That is just like, we'll just give her a name. It's Floor, and that's the reason. I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
But going into sort of the emotional stuff, that's what gravitated even just general movie fans to this movie. Obviously you have to watch the other two. Fair enough. A lot of people
Yeah.
now go into a Marvel movie thinking like, yeah, I'll just watch this. This is on. You do have to watch, the other stuff and other content. But I just think that them moments, it brought such a human side to all of these characters. The anger, the frustration, the pain, the emotion, every single part of it. You feel like every single one of these characters in this scene, particularly obviously Rocket, is human. And like you said, that final scene, I did think it was it. I was surprised it wasn't, honestly. I was surprised because I just thought to myself, because obviously we all were hinting about who was going to die and stuff like that. I just thought, this is a fantastic moment. Are they going to do it? And obviously they decided to not, which, fair enough, I understand. But I just think that scene, you really, really feel like Rocket was defeated. Rocket was done. Rocket had enough. And it was that sort of focus and that, of no, you're not done. And then they said, oh, can I come and play with you guys? And went, yeah, of course. I thought that was it. I thought that was done. I thought, this is it now. And it just wasn't. And I just think that was keeping people engaged. That's really good storytelling, because you're almost sort of like, no, please. Oh, thank God. And then you're like, wait, could that have worked? Or no, I'm just happy. I'm just happy he's still here. Like, absolutely brilliant. Just a roller coaster of emotions throughout this whole movie. Rocket definitely drove that with everything, because, like I said, new person, trying to find his place in the world, only had these people. Now that gets taken away from you. All of the stuff was justified. Every single part of it was absolutely 100% correct. And you feel, after the end of it, you feel like, Rocket, I know and love you so much more now.
Oh, definitely. It made me love Rocket Raccoon even way, way more than I did in the very first in the first two movies. I mean, like, even in Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War, I just simply loved them, because it was so hilarious, and kind of like, this kind of like tough guy, well, tough raccoon, basically, and
Yep.
I love that. But in this movie, it made me love the character even more. I do agree with you on that. And I will say this, just like I said at the beginning, the bond that he had with Floor, Thief, and Lila, like, that bond, like, every single scene with them, it was just simply, for me, it was beautiful, cute, but at the same time magical in a way. Like, that bond that that he had with them ever since, like, the very first time that bastard, the High Evolutionary, experimented on him. When he, I mean, there was like, when he came as a child, as a little raccoon, he came to the cage, dude. His bald head, what should I say? It was a skull. That was a skull. I was like, that's fucking messed up. Like, that was bizarre. Like, seeing, first and foremost, I was imagining in my head, oh my God, I'm seeing a raccoon that's not just simply bald. I'm seeing the top of a raccoon's skull. I was like, oh my God, that was so disturbing. But either way, it worked for the High Evolutionary, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And I'm not going to have a blast with it. But anyway, but the point is, ever since that scene, all the way till the end, even the light scene, that bond that he had with them, it was just simply beautiful. Even though at the end it destroyed me, but it was so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will, now we talked like the first half an hour. We talked like about Rocket. I think like now we should go to other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though just thinking the first two movies, I think like the Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista. I always forget Mantis's, like, the actress's name who played Mantis.
Pom Clemente.
Thank you. Yes, her. Kraglin, who played also by Gunn, James Gunn's brother. Who also, by the way, as I said at the very beginning, CGI'd, Shin Gunn on the set, Rocket on the set. Anyway, all the other like members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, I wouldn't even say this. Even the inclusion of Cosmo the
Yeah.
space dog. Like that surprised me. Also, by the way, I just want to mention this because first and foremost, for people who don't know, Cosmo in the comics, it's actually a male dog, not a female. But here's the thing, and James Gunn explained it why he gender swapped Cosmo, because he wanted to make a what's the word? He wanted to now I'm forgetting the word. What's the word? Wait. Let me just find it. Just a second, please. Just a second.
It's like representative, like represented.
No, I'm trying to find the word. Just a second. Give me a second.
Well, while you look for that, just
okay. I find
it.
Tribute. Okay, so the reason, and I loved what James Gunn said. The reason why he gender swapped Cosmo is because he wanted to make a tribute to Laika. You know, the dog that went into space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, actually that's actually a pretty good idea. You know,
yeah,
I understand why he gender swapped her, but even like I would say this, even for Cosmo, even though he had a small role, but like even Cosmo had some really good moments. You know, not simply with Kraglin, but also like when you see his hers telepathic powers, basically. You know, I love that. You know, but either way, going back to the Guardians of the Galaxy, I think like every single one of them was great. I don't even know as far as say when second to Rocket, Nebula also had a very really well done arc in this movie.
She was brilliant. She was, to me, she was the best.
Away
from Rocket, absolutely fantastic. Just her journey, the way that she obviously presented. You know, you could see her as a leader. You could see her as the leader, but obviously with a massive change of, emotions and change of opinions on people. Obviously, she spent a lot of time with Tony Stark, in obviously traveling back from Titan. Obviously, and then that's when they picked them up after Endgame. So you could generally see the journey that she's been on, and then, like I said, she just brings in. She's familiar with this. She's very headstrong. She represents a very strong sort of female. I thought her chemistry in this movie with Gamora, I just thought was really funny because it just really reminded me of some people like, well, I don't like you, I need you, and we call each other sisters. So you just sort of do this, and then you go on with your day. I just think that was brilliant. But no, she was absolutely fantastic. I'm really intrigued to see what they do with the Guardians nowadays, and I do want to see a little bit more of Nebula, just because I think finally she's had that really, really great arc. Are you going to build on that, or are you just going to let it go? I think that's a decision that Marvel need to make, and hopefully we can see more of her.
I agree, but I would even add more. You know, I didn't just simply love her relationship with Gamora, but also I loved her relationship with that she had with Drax, Mantis, and Star-Lord. I just loved the relationship that she had with all of them, you know, and especially, I know, in a weird way, especially with Star-Lord. I just love the relationship that she had with him, you know, when, for example, when he was drunk and basically he grabbed her hand and he said, you know, I love you, Gamora, or that time when they were in that facility trying to get the formula and informations for Rocket. And they were basically he was staring at her. That scene, which by the way, I was going to say that scene was hilarious, you know. But all those it's a bit itsy bitsy moments basically with Star-Lord, especially in the car when Star-Lord was driving the car. By the way, I was waiting the entire movie when James Gunn is going to drop the F-bomb.
I know we got it finally.
I know. I was waiting for the F-bomb. Where is he going to put it? Where is he going to put it? Who's going to say it? And then, of course, in the car, he said it. Basically, get in the fucking car. I'm like, perfect. A lot of people might think it's simple. Why they couldn't do it in a more powerful scene? But for me, it was perfect. Perfect F-bomb.
It was really something that brought the comedic sense. I think as well, the scene in the lift with Gamora and Quill trying to sort of reminisce, and her face that is the face of people where you just really don't want to be there, and just was just honestly, that was really good as well. That was really good because you could just see her frustration as she said it. Speaking about Quill, can I just really mindly say, at the beginning, he got on my nerves. At the beginning, I think he lost the identity because the movie wasn't about him, and I don't know what they were going to do. I think the Gamora thing was great. I just think at the beginning, I just thought, if this is your only arc in this movie, if this is the only reason why you're here, this is going to get. He obviously wanted to try to save his friend, but I think that because that was everybody's goal and everybody's mission, it just didn't become very individual to him. Like I said, at the beginning, he got on my nerves a little bit. But then once at the end, that was a moment. And obviously, Mantis with that incredible line about, your granddad lost that day, he lost a daughter and he lost his grandson. And I just thought to myself, wow, that is something that I did not think about whatsoever when you're rewatching the movies or when I watched it for the first time, a sequel's journey. It redeemed it. It redeemed it at the end when he obviously went back to see his grandfather, really take a step back, go back on Earth with all these incredible journeys. But obviously he was on Earth, even when he was on Earth, when at the end of Endgame, and that wouldn't have happened, obviously. There was so much responsibility at the end of Endgame. So you understood. But even when looking back at it now, you just think he was on Earth and there was not even an inkling. He just went back. It was one line that decided him to do it. And I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, at the beginning, you got on my nerves a little bit. Towards the end, I just think that is absolutely fantastic. And obviously that was the end. That was the final scene. And you start with Star-Lord in the first one with the iconic dance. You end it with this one. Great ending journey. And I just think that was really good. So, yeah, definitely redeemed Star-Lord massively towards the end of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I totally agree on that. But even though in the end, for me personally, I can understand, why James Gunn went that direction with Peter's character. Like, because after all, he was mourning, for Gamora. The actual Gamora that died in Infinity War. So it's kind of understandable why he was like that. But in the end, at least you can see, he embraced, that that's not the Gamora, that he knew and loved, that is a different Gamora, that it's not like it will not be the same as it was before, and
thank God they did that, by the way. Like,
yes.
thank God they did that. There was a part of me where I just thought, if you swap Gamora back and if you make Gamora back and let's make this work, I just don't think that would have been the right decision. I was quite frustrated with that.
Yeah, honestly, like I would say this version of Gamora in Volume 3, not only brutal, but she was actually the one that got on my nerves. She actually was the one who got on my nerves. Yes. The way how she was acting, instead of like trying to, let's just say, being a little bit compassionate with Peter, why he felt the way he felt. It took her the entire movie.
Yeah, no, I see that now. Yeah, I do see that.
It took her the entire movie to understand, what he felt, why he loved the actual Gamora, not this version. So in the way how they parted ways in the end, it was in a way satisfactory for me. Even though I was kind of sad, oh my God, now, he's never going to be in love with Gamora again and all that, but even though with that, what James Gunn did and how they parted ways, it was satisfying, for me. And, but again, I agree with you. Like I said, like you said, she was brutal, but she was also such a big dickhead.
Yeah, she was. Character. Yeah, she was.
She was such a dickhead, through the entire movie. Like, she never cared for Peter. She was brutal with him. She never cared for anyone except herself.
But I think she was more brutal than you ever saw her in Volume 1. I think they tried to take her down as massively as possible. And then obviously the way that the story ended up, I think James Gunn was pleased because obviously he still got Gamora around. Obviously didn't direct the Infinity War and Endgame and obviously make story decisions. But I do think he was very pleased with that, and said, thank God we can keep her around. Mm-hmm. But even when you see her in the, when she comes back, obviously she's 2014 Gamora. But I would have liked if she was a little bit earlier than that, if that made sense. Like, I would have preferred if she was a little bit like a 2011, 2012, if you gauge that a little bit, because I just thought you're supposed to be the Gamora that then ends up changing just because she gets chucked into prison with them. I just think it, like you said, she was so brutal. You just think to myself, she was never this brutal. It's not like it's gone, brutal, loves Quill, back to brutal. It was almost a sort of like fairly all right. Love Quill, brutal, and you're like, that's wrong.
Mm.
That's such a the story change. It was just too much. It was just too much
Yeah.
for me. But
Exactly. But in the end, she sympathized with him. She understood, the love that she had for Gamora, the love they have for each other as the Guardians and everything. So again, as I said a few minutes ago, the way how their relationship, so to speak, ended was very satisfactory for
yeah,
me. The way how it went. But also, I just want to say this. I mean, I love their relationship in Volume 2. I love them so much in Holiday Special. Drax and Mantis in Volume 3. Oh my God. Their relationship. You can do a comedy spin-off / sitcom just with Drax and
yeah.
Mantis. Like they're such a duo. Oh my God. So hilarious. Like Dave Bautista and the actress who played Mantis. What was her name again?
Pom Clemente F.
Thank you. I can never remember her name. Shit. But anyway, like their performances and oh my God, like their relationship and chemistry. Even like when Mantis told Drax to say those lines to Peter,
Yeah.
about his life and everything.
It's a brother and sister thing. It's a brother and sister like chemistry and
Exactly.
relationship. Yeah, where like
Exactly.
Mantis is like the older one, and then Drax is like the younger one that gets forced into it. And it reminded me, I have a younger sister, so it's a little bit different in terms of like change. But we never did that. But I could just imagine like, yeah, that's what my sister would do. My sister would just force me to go speak to his man and go try and sort this situation out. Bless her. But yeah, I think that was great. The dynamic was great. They were really great. Once again, obviously the brother and sister thing I mentioned. I was pleased that when obviously Drax was just like, I was pleased that they didn't go back and leave together. I'm pleased that they sort of split up because I just think Drax's journey that made sense. Mantis's, when she explained about how she never had her own choice, she was always like, forced to be, I want to make my own decisions. That made sense. So I think putting them together would have worked and it would have been a very fan pleasing moment. But then in terms of splitting them apart, you actually understand it a lot better. And obviously Drax was just like, no, I'm here for you. That's exactly what, siblings do, is that like, I'll come with you. Of course I'll be there for you. But Mantis really had that sort of headstrong about, no, I need to do this for myself. And he understood. But then she sort of said, this is what you need to do. Make sure you do it. And he said, I will. Fantastic. And I just think that made a really great choice. There were certain moments in this movie, particularly at the end, where I thought, if James Gunn goes a separate way with this, I'm not sure whether that would be the best ending. However, I think, with that, the example we used with Gamora, going with Quill, I wouldn't have been pleased with that. I wouldn't have been pleased if Nebula went away, because I think Nebula's journey really ended in, obviously looking after the kids and looking after the community. That was great. But if they did an alternative ending for her, wouldn't have appreciated that. Obviously, Rocky and Groot with the Guardians, that was great. And then obviously with Drax and Mantis, I think James Gunn made some very, very intelligent choices, really made the correct choices, in my personal opinion. A lot of people would have preferred the alternative ways, but absolutely fantastic. And Drax and Mantis definitely, brings the comedy, brings the fun, brings the enjoyment, but absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just want to say this, and thank God I was wrong. But like, there were a few brief moments where I thought, like, will actually Peter now go with Nebula? I mean, like, because don't get me wrong, there were some certain moments in the movie where you think, like, wait, are they gonna end up as a couple? And in my head, I was like, oh, please, God, no. Like, please don't do this. And I was like, so thankful that that didn't happen. I was so happy with that. But again, like, I mean, I've in overall, like, even Groot, I just want to mention briefly, even Groot, like, even Groot had some really great moments with, like, not just simply with Rocket, but like even with, like, especially when you go as far as say, especially with Peter, like, he had some really great moments, especially when when they were facing the High Evolutionary, and all that. But overall, like, every single Guardian had their own moments. From Peter
Yeah.
to Kraglin and Cosmo. Like every single one had their own moments, and they worked. They absolutely worked. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it even without you commenting. I'm just saying. I'm just
It's
saying.
brilliant. Obviously Nathan is a fantastic member of obviously the Shadow Council. He's a well, no, that's not stuff like that. But actually, this Nathan who's in here and Max, both of these people I live with. So
Oh,
these guys, both of these guys I live with, and they're absolutely fantastic. I love them both. I love them both. So this is great. I'm so pleased that they managed to jump in. Thank you very much, boys. Thank you. I love you guys. That's great.
well done, guys. Well done. You're welcome always.
Subscribe to this man. Subscribe to this man. All right, please.
And this man right here.
They already are. I forced them to.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it's easier that way. Threatening somebody. Anyway, yeah, but like again, as I said before, like every single Guardian had their own really great moments all the way till the end. But now, with everything said, let's jump to the main baddie, the cherry on the top, which of course is the High Evolutionary.
Yes.
First and foremost, I'm gonna say this. Thank you, James Gunn. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin Feige. Thank you, Marvel Studios. Thank you, Disney. Thank you for giving me an actual villain.
Yeah.
Like, no explanation, no feeling sorry for him or her, no origin story, just plain evil. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you for that. Because it made me enjoy the High Evolutionary to hate him even more. And I always butcher this guy's name, but like his portrayal as the High Evolutionary was top notch. It was epic. Like his performance was amazing, and I have to say, James Gunn chose magnificently. I mean, if you do, I mean, people should. I mean, people already know the actor, because he was working with James Gunn on Peacemaker, so he already had a connection with him.
As I was watching the movie, I was just like, I recognize you. I recognize you. I don't know where I know you from. And then when I did my review, just keeping up on people's names and stuff like that, so I can name them correctly. Woody Iwuju, I think that's his name.
I don't know. I mean, I always butcher his name because
that's it. But when I saw him, I was like, Peacemaker. I was like, that was it. Thank God for. Like, I knew who he was. Best Guardians villain.
Best
Guardians villain for me.
Oh, definitely. I would noticeably, it's like my best. It's the best Guardian villain, but so far, like I would say, like he's one of the best villains in Phase 5 so far.
We've already had two. Two.
I mean, okay, fair enough. Yeah, we have only Kang and the High Evolutionary. Fair point, but my point was like he rivals Kang when it comes to being an amazing villain. That's what I meant. That's what I meant with that. He was amazing. And again, I agree with you that he's like when it comes to ranking Ronan, Ego, and the High Evolutionary. The High Evolutionary is definitely number one.
They've not had the best villains. They've not had the best villains in the Guardians movies, in my opinion. Ronan was, I felt, very much so disconnected from being relatable. He wasn't relatable at all. He was just a sidekick, and I just think, obviously, that the Thanos moments was that one Thanos scene in the first Guardians was better than anything that Ronan did in that movie.
Well, the thing is, Ronan again, another villain that was just simply plain evil, and I'm grateful for that for James Gunn again. But Ronan also, he actually had his own personal agenda. Like he actually had a reason why he was doing what he was doing. In a way. I mean, also the character of Ronan, like the way how James Gunn actually, brought him to life, so to speak. It's very almost identical to the comic books. Because he's no different from the comics when it comes to his personality. So Ronan for me also was a solid villain. For me, but if I have to rank him, I will definitely go the High Evolutionary, then Ego, then Ronan, definitely. Because for
because I think
me,
Ego had
Ego,
more. He had more of a focus, and he had more, and obviously the ending of that movie was, obviously in the connection to Quill. Like I said with Ronan, I just think he felt so disconnected, and then how they crafted the story and the direction they went with him, you just like, don't bother about Ronan, bother about Thanos, his boss, who we hinted at the end of the Avengers. Like, I just felt like it was very much like, he's the villain, he's the one, and then you honestly, when you learnt about Thanos and the fact that he was working for him, you just like, yeah, don't bother about him anymore. Bother about Thanos. And that was the thing. Ego, I think, was a bit better. Kurt Russell's obviously a great actor. There was too much exploration in that movie with the way sort of Ego, just was constantly talking. But I just think it was, obviously the chemistry with Quill, it did a lot for Quill's character. I agree with you ranking 100%, but the high evolutionary, is that his name? Absolutely fantastic. Really, really great. Just the way he presented. And there's obviously these days, I think we spoke briefly about it at the end of was it the Super Mario review we did with Bowser? Like, I think we spoke about this when we were talking about villains and how villains have to go on this journey. Again, the right decision. I keep mentioning it, I keep bringing it up, but I just think in a conclusion movie, you've got to. In the conclusion movie, you've got to end stories well and make the correct decisions. Again, they made the correct decision with that. I just thought, please don't turn him. Please don't make him good. Please don't feel like he regretted the error of his ways. Because I just think himself, he's doing so well.
Listen, when it comes to High Evolutionary, even like halfway through the movie, there was no way James Gunn was going to turn him good. There was no way, because there's so many actions that he did that, like, this guy is not just simply messed up, but like he's like pure evil,
Yeah, but he needed that. He needed that.
And also, and I will say this, like, I was so happy the way that how James Gunn handled the High Evolutionary, because first and foremost, the High Evolutionary, number one, is a very underrated Marvel villain, number one. Number two, he is one of my like top 20 favorite Marvel villains of all time. I love the High Evolutionary.
So when you saw that he was announced in this movie, were you a little bit like, were you happy with that, or were you just a little bit, you make sure they do this right? Because there's a lot that Marvel have had that tradition and that background where villains have not been the best. So were you a little bit nervous, or you were a little bit like, make sure this is good because this can be brilliant?
I'll be honest. When they first announced that James Gunn, I don't know if it was James Gunn or someone else, but when they announced that the High Evolutionary will be the main villain, I'll be honest. Like, yes, I did. I actually had some demands, which is basically, to handle him pretty well, to handle me, the way how the High Evolutionary is represented, and and I was, a little bit skeptical when it comes to his design. I was a little bit skeptical, but they actually kind of also, because here's the thing. I don't know if you ever watched. Did you ever saw the High Evolutionary, how he looks in the comics?
Yes, I had a look. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Just with a quick glance.
Yes. So basically, if you saw the movie and the comic book costume, they're really different. Really different. And that's the one thing that when I first saw him, that's the one thing that bugged me. Like why doesn't he look like, just like in the comics, like, because he looks so different. But I'll be honest, with the actor's performance as the High Evolutionary and seeing him throughout the movie, the costume, I would say, it kind of grew on me. Okay,
yeah,
the costume, the overall outfit, it grew on me. I accept it for what it was. I mean, did I want to, at least to have the High Evolutionary helmet? Yes, but overall, I was completely fine with the costume in the end. But I will say this. His personality, his ego, his intelligence, his madness, spot on, just like he was in the comics.
Yeah,
spot on. Yeah, spot on that. And I will say this. Also, this kind of actually, because I mean, the High Evolutionary. That's a little fact. The High Evolutionary didn't actually had gravity powers.
Okay.
No, he actually had. I mean, it's kind of classic, but like he had superhuman strength. He had superhuman intelligence. He had telekinesis. I think one time. I think also he had like vast like energy manipulation or something. like he had a lot of powers, but basically his main weapon was his intelligence. He never had, gravity as an ability. But I will say this: I wouldn't mind if they added in the comics, because he actually also fits the power fits the character, and some people, I will say this: some people actually, I've seen them complain, they didn't show, the High Evolutionary's powers full potential. And I'm like, bullshit! They were showing it throughout the entire movie, like his power and what he's capable of. Like with Adam Warlock, with the Guardians, in the end with Rocket. Like, this guy is a villain that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
And of course, I will say this. One of my favorite lines when it comes to the High Evolutionary, I mean, of course, almost everyone loves that line, but when he said, "There is no God, that's why I stepped in."
Yeah, that was the best. That was one of the best.
That was not just one of the best lines in the movie, but it was one of the best villain lines I've ever heard.
Jeez.
It was,
I mean,
beautifully written, pointed, and delivered.
For people that are just tuning in right now, that are listening potentially, this man knows his villains, and he watches a lot of things involving villains. So that is a bold line. That is a fantastic line. I love that.
You're making me blush,
I always, mate, you make me blush every time when you say about, my charming associate. So, I've got to give something back here. Let's move on. We've got viewers. It's not just me and you talking. Come on,
Okay. Fair enough. But so yeah, overall, the High Evolutionary, it was a really well delivered villain. And I will say this: the High Evolutionary is the second villain that, in my years of villainy, let's put it that way.
Watching villains, not actual villainy work, by the way. Can we just confirm that?
Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, watching villains, not actual villainy work.
I've got you. You might be incriminated then.
Uh-oh. Anyway, so basically, because the very first villain that I actually hated while watching was in the Harry Potter movies, the pink lady who loved cats.
Oh, Umbridge, Professor Umbridge.
Yes, Dolores Umbridge. Yes, she was the very first villain. Yes, she was the very first villain that I really hated, and ever since then, the High Evolutionary now became my second.
She is in the worst Harry Potter movie anyway. She's in the worst Harry Potter movie anyway.
But that actress, she delivered her performance. I mean, she delivered her performance beautifully.
She was good. Yeah, she was good.
Anyway, so yeah, the High Evolutionary, also one of my greatest praises of the movie. He was a great villain, and again, thank you, James Gunn, for giving me a pure evil character. No bullshit about his origin. Feeling sorry for him. Nothing. Just pure evil. I love that.
Can we talk about Warlock?
Before that.
Oh, okay.
Just one small thing, and then we're done.
Yeah.
One of the other things I love about the High Evolutionary is the reference when it comes to his real face. When they actually removed the overall mask of the High Evolutionary and you see his real face, that's actually a reference to I don't remember actually in which comic book issue was, but basically when the High Evolutionary's helmet was destroyed and you see his actual real face, the only difference is that in the comics his face was actually deformed because of all the experiments he was making on himself. In this one, because of what Rocket did to him,
Yeah.
But I still love that reference. I still love that reference, showing his true face. And again, I just want to say this: I would have loved if Rocket was the one to finish him off. But I will say this: that Guardians of the Galaxy combo, it was phenomenal. Every single one of them, working together, punching, like every single one of them, giving them their strikes, their fists, it was just beautiful the way how they knocked him off. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I was a little bit when I saw him for the first time, and then he did the obviously with the thing that you see. Obviously, he's wearing that sort of masks type of thing, but it's sort of thing at the top. That was great. I was a little bit thinking that looks awful. What is Marvel doing? I'm like, this is going to make sense later. There was that moment in the movie where I was watching it and just going, I agree. That looked bad. That looks bad. oh wait, hang on a minute, that's going to be a plot point later on. Like, I just thought to myself, give Marvel a little bit of credit. Like, they know that they're not going to show something that obvious. Like, they know what they're doing. But that was that slight thinking of like, what the hell is that on the side of his face? But no, that was great. Like I said, he was the best Guardians villain. In terms of obviously the multiverse saga, I'm trying to sort of bring that in because obviously we've only had 2 movies in Phase 5. Up there, top five.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, and
I think in Spider-Man there wasn't there was obviously like Green Goblin. You got to put him in there. I think
definitely.
Namor could. I think there's a slight Kang you can put him for what he's the little bit he's done already. In my personal opinion, Wanda. I think you've got to put her up there in there, and then. I mean, I'm probably missing a few. I'm trying to think of. I thought Ethan Hawke in Moon Knight was great. I just don't
Oh
think he's
yeah.
not getting the credit he deserves. So yeah, I'd probably put and then of the High Evolutionary in that top 5. So, but that's probably be my top 5. But Green Goblin is number 1, 100% in number 1. Oh my god, seriously, he's absolutely. Willem Dafoe's brilliant. Like we spoke about like James Gunn in DC at the beginning. Get him in as a Joker. So get him in now. Like absolutely brilliant. I love him.
I mean, you can never go wrong with Willem Dafoe.
No,
Period.
definitely not.
Let's just
Definitely
put it
not.
that way. But overall, yeah, I mean, like, yeah. But also, I just want to point out before we go to Adam Warlock, your favorite part. Before we go to
Sort
Adam
of.
Warlock, I just want to briefly mention. I love the Counter Earth world building that we had. I just love like you have this actual like second copy, so to speak, of Earth, where basically you have these humanoid creatures living. And I don't know the way how they were dressed and everything. It kind of reminds me like it's Earth like from the 80s.
Yeah. Which we
I
were
don't
not
know.
part
Don't
of.
you think like that?
Well, I was a part of the 80s, but I've seen photos, and yes, I do agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
there were some questionable choices in terms of clothing.
yeah. Because remember, the High Evolutionary said, oh, I visited your planet once, and I'm like, when exactly did you visit it? Like was it like from the 80s, 70s, maybe like or like because the way how they were dressed and the cars, it
Yeah,
really felt like he visited Earth like either 60s, 70s, or 80s. That's just
yeah.
my theory.
It's not very modern. It's not. People are not walking around with iPhones and watching Netflix. Like it was not. It was not like that. Or Disney
Exactly.
Plus. Sorry, you got to put the Disney Plus placement in there. They probably would have done that instead of Netflix.
Yeah, true. That's true. But anyway, like the Counter Earth thing, also was kind of like, cute when it comes to story wise. I really like the humanoid creatures and the, vibe, and again, the way how they were like communicating with the family, so to speak, trying to reason with them. Also, that scene with the couch and Drax, like that just simply hilarious.
The
But my
ball
favorite
moment.
part,
The ball
exactly.
moment. It's in the trailer, but obviously it still does make me laugh. A bit when he like he throws the ball. It is honestly brilliant. Like that when I watched that for the first time in the trailer, I had to stop the trailer and just finish laughing and then go back to it because honestly, that's just so on point for Drax. And then obviously with the SETI, I did think like that was another good moment as well. But obviously that was in another trailer or a TV spot or something. So we obviously saw that. But yeah, just the ball and the couch moment for me, just absolutely brilliant. I've already seen them and still laughed in the cinema.
Yeah. Also, briefly, I just want to mention my favorite part of the Counter Earth moment.
Yeah.
My favorite part is definitely the car. When like Star Lord is like trying to drive and Nebula is trying to enter the car and she doesn't know how the fuck to do it. Like that was so fucking hilarious. And again, an F bomb beautifully delivered. Just want to say this. Beautifully delivered. Now, without everything being said and done.
Yeah.
Also, okay. I'm sorry.
We're really delaying this point, aren't you?
I know.
I'm getting more angry.
I know. I had to mention just one more thing, very briefly, and
it's your
I want to ask
your
you
channel.
What do you think? Thank you. But okay, when we talk about the Guardians, like everyone have their own moments. I just want to mention briefly about Kraglin. I love that moment when he imagined Yondu.
Yeah.
I just want to briefly mention that. Like, I love that moment where he like basically imagined Yondu trying to encourage him and how to use the arrow and everything. Like I just love that. I'm sorry I had to mention that.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, that was really great touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We now everything's said and done. Now we can move to the Le Piece de Resistance, which is of course Adam Warlock. The one thing that a lot of people didn't like. For me, I'm on the fence. Honestly, for me, I'm on the fence. I mean, I'll be very brief. Okay. First and foremost, I just want to say I love the twist that the High Evolutionary was the one who created the Golden People. I actually like that twist. That he was their creator. The High Evolutionary is like basically like the biggest mad scientist in the galaxy, so to speak, or in the universe. I like that twist. Anyway, also it was great to see Aisha again. I just want to say this. The golden woman who tried to fuck Peter in Volume 2.
Yep. I got that. I've got it.
Good. Anyway, so it was great to see her again. And even though personally I didn't care about her, honestly. But anyway, Adam Warlock, I mean, I told you basically off the live stream, basically.
Yep.
Adam Warlock, I do agree that, he acted like a child in this movie. But on his defense, when Adam Warlock was first introduced in the comics, he actually was acting like a child as well. Even though he did look like an adult, he did act like a child. So in his defense, the childishness was acceptable. I will say this. It was acceptable. But overall, I think like Will Poulter, the way how he portrayed him and how they showed the character and, like his powers and the way how he was fighting the Guardians and everything, for what James Gunn gave him with already a already well full movie, so to speak, for what he gave him, for me, it was satisfactory. And honestly, I cannot wait to see more of him in the Guardians. I mean, again, I don't have anything more to say. I will only say this, that I really like how he's like exploring the world, basically, and life, especially with the pet that belonged to one of the Ravagers. By the way, shout out to Sylvester Stallone coming back as Takara Gord. I just want to say this.
He was good.
He was great, and also it was really great to see the original Guardians of the Galaxy, which of course Takara Gord, Matrix, the robotic floating head. I can't remember her name. The magical alien that has the power just like Doctor Strange. It was really great to see them. By the way,
that was cool. That was a cool moment. Like when I saw that, I was like, "Yes, that is wicked." Like that was just like that was one of the best moments, including like away from obviously like the supporting characters. That was brilliant. I would love that.
Yeah, because
movies are about opinions. Movies are about very subjective opinions. And what I very much like about doing live streams and things with people is that you get to have this just general movie chat. So whilst I, love talking about and respecting people's opinions, Mr. Lord Shadows is all wrong about Adam Warlock, in my opinion. No, I'm joking. Honestly, the most frustrating thing about it is that he was just so deliberately and obviously shoehorned in. And I think I watched an interview with James Gunn, and the title of this video was, I felt the hardest thing in this movie to do was putting Adam Warlock into the story. When you've got a director like that, I think he regretted his decision for Warlock in his placement. A lot of people actually wanted him to be introduced in Guardians Volume 2 earlier on, so he would have had so he still would have been available in that way for Avengers, which I don't personally agree with. I think he regrets putting him in because I think a lot of people will remember, you've got Warlock involved in this project, you need to bring him in. I think, like I said, I think he was shoehorned in, and then I think it almost sort of, and this is just my opinion, I think it, whilst the high revolutionary had a great goal, he had a great plan. It almost the involvement and the decision and the decision making of saying that he created the Golden People, it didn't make sense. It's for me, his overall goal and the overall mission was to create a correct human, correct race of beings. That was his goal. That was his mission. He succeeded. He got the golden people. They were compliant, and then he's still going. I just think involving them in making that story, is that in the comics? Does that exist in the comics?
Yep.
Right. So yeah, you've still got that, responsibility a little bit. But if you took Adam Warlock out of this movie, you took them people, that version, and did not decide to make that a story thing, I think it added more reasoning. As soon as they turned around and went, well, his goal is to create the most, compliant and strongest, greatest people in the universe, but he also created them people. You feel like his mission's already succeeded, and I just think it affected the High Revolutionary more, in my opinion, in terms of the way him. I just thought Will Poulter was great. I think the childish elements I thought brought the comedic elements, and obviously that's what the MCU are massively known for, particularly the Guardians. So I was fine with that. But when you've got your director saying the hardest thing was to put this character in the movie, when you've hinted at this and made this a fantastic part off the back of the second movie, I'm just not too sure whether the whole focus and the whole progress was Warlock's here, but he's not. And I just think to myself, I just thought I just don't know whether it was the right decision, in my personal opinion. But that's why I got incredibly frustrated with Adam Warlock.
Look, as I told you at the beginning, I do respect your opinion, and I do understand why you think this is a negative. Because partially, I would say this partially, I do agree with you. Like, first and foremost, Adam Warlock, we didn't already field storyline, so to speak, in volume 3. Adam Warlock, it actually felt that he was pushed in, because it's basically to fill the gap what was left in volume 2, especially the crate scene, that Warlock would be created and everything. So I get that. Okay, I get it. That he was pushed and didn't have too much to do. I get that. But personally, I would say this, that even though he was pushed and you really have a feeling of it, but I will say,
very do.
Fair point. But I will say that even though he didn't have too much to do, I think his role is how can I put this? Explanatory in a way. It is explained why he's there and what kind of a purpose did James Gunn, did put on Adam Warlock, and how to use him, So,
yeah, absolutely.
Because in a way, when you see the movie, it is also, you can kind of see, it's also kind of like his origin story.
Yeah.
Basically, trying to embrace the world as it is, trying to learn new things, what is good, what is bad, because you can see from from his journey in the movie, that he's conflicting, he's in conflict when it comes to good and bad. For example, when Aisha told him, to kill that creature, he didn't want to, because he felt like it would be a bad thing, and all the way until the very end when he saved Peter from space. Which, by the way, it kind of felt like the painting between God and human, but with the finger.
Yeah.
It kind of felt that like that painting. But anyway, I agree. Again, I agree. Number one, he didn't have too much to do. Number two, he was kind of pushed in. I get it. But even still, I think James Gunn found a way how to use him. And I think he used him in a solid way. Let's put it that way.
I think if, obviously at the time, 2017, obviously the Marvel Cinematic Universe was incredibly different. They had different opportunities. I think personally, if you took him out of this movie, but Kevin Feige turned around and said, remember that end credit scene at the end of Guardians Volume 2 with Adam Warlock? I know we didn't put him into Guardians 3 because we're going to give him his own Disney Plus show. I would have been absolutely fine with that.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely fine with that, because that would have added so much more to Adam Warlock and make this such a great character pushing forward, then I think it would have really worked. To be honest, with the Peter save, if that was Gamora, I would have been fine with it, because I do think that would have added a lot with Gamora, but then it also would have replicated and swapped over the roles of when he saved her, even though it wasn't technically her, in the first Guardians movie when she got blown out the ship. So I do think that could have really worked. I mean, that could have made sense. But I think if you took him out of this but you would have given fan service we're still going to give you Warlock. He's going to be a Disney Plus show. I still think fans would have gone home happy. So that's my only sort of opinion, is that I think if you take away Warlock as, a character, I think the movie would still have that very, very positive opinion on it. I don't think it would have changed my overall thoughts, because, like you said, I thought Will Poulter was great. I thought the childish elements was great, so I liked that bit. So it wouldn't have knocked it. It wouldn't have bumped it up, but it wouldn't have knocked it down. But I still would have had a little bit more importance if they do a Disney Plus show. I'd be like, great, let's do it. Because it would have been his show, his story, his backstory. I think it would have worked.
Again, there are a few things that what you said, I agree. And like, number one, if, for example, James Gunn removed Adam Warlock completely from the movie, it would have changed. It would have not changed the movie at all.
Yeah.
Personally, I do believe that if he removed him, it would not change the movie a bit and everything. But again, I will repeat myself again that James Gunn found a purpose for Adam Warlock, and I will say this: the way how he used him, I thought it was very satisfactory. And I will give you actually two facts about Adam Warlock.
Go on.
Number one, he was created on Earth. Number one, and two, the High Evolutionary in the comics was actually the one who gave him the name Warlock.
I like the name. I like the name whole idea of it. Where
no, yeah, but that's also referenced a little bit in the movie as well.
Yes. Yeah, no, I like that. That was a really cool part. Like, Warlock is a really cool name. Like, I really like that. I think it's brilliant. So yeah.
And I will say this: when Aisha died in that explosion, when the High Evolutionary was destroying Counter Earth, when she died, like, I've seen some people like, actually going like, oh, like, oh my God, she died. And in my head, I'm like, anyhow, moving on.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I told you I didn't care about her at all. I didn't care about her at all.
No, I didn't either.
So that's why my reaction was like, anyway, moving on.
It's just that reminds me of like I'm not really bothered with that. Like, that's brilliant. Honestly, that was such a great reaction. I could imagine. I could just see your face go. Let's go on. Like, that was great. I love that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and also, the way how it was done, that scene, you kind of saw it coming, that she was gonna die. You kind of saw it coming. But anyway, before we finish, I just want to go a little bit to the end of the movie, which of course, let's be honest. I think we both thought, like almost everyone else, that the Guardians of the Galaxy, or at least few of them, will die.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was forced into you, though. It was a bit forced into you, where it was like, they're going to die, aren't they? And I was like, yeah, they will do. And I'm just like...
Because remember, James Gunn did say this will be the last movie that we're going to see the Guardians of the Galaxy for what they were, like when it comes to the actual members. Like,
that doesn't mean that they're going to die. Like I said, that doesn't mean that they're going to die.
I know.
Everybody was missing that bit.
I know, but he kind of gives you an idea they could die.
Oh yeah, no, yes.
Gives you an idea.
They didn't say this is it. You will not see any of them, and you're just a little bit like, right, okay, fair enough. But like,
I mean, think about it. Like, there were a few moments where you think, like, oh, they're actually gonna die. Like, for example, when Drax was shot.
Yeah, no,
or
I agree.
When Mantis and Drax were like, riding the bike and the bike, and basically when Counter Earth was exploding, there were a few moments where they actually could have been killed.
Yeah, they hinted at it very well. Yeah, like
Nebula
as well with Quill.
Nebula, when he was trying to control the ship when it was exploding, that could have also been a scene where she basically sacrificed herself and died. And of course, Peter Quill in space. They could have easily, oh my God, Star-Lord is gonna die. and he didn't, because he was saved by Adam Warlock. And then, of course, he gave him a very weird hug. Anyway, yeah. So, like, yeah, I mean, like, there was a lot of chances, even with Rocket when he was walking towards the light. That could also been a chance for him to die. Like, again, this movie had so many possibilities of, like, these characters dying, so many possibilities. But I will say this: I'm glad they didn't. But even though the way how they ended, like Star-Lord going to Earth, Mantis going on her own, Drax going on his own, Nebula creating a home on nowhere, it was perfect. The way how they ended, it was perfect. And you can definitely see, like, because first and foremost, we're not going to see Drax, I think, and Mantis again.
No, we won't.
Because first and foremost, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, like, she's done as Gamora. Dave Bautista as Drax, he's done. Like, he's done as Drax. Mantis, she could have returned, because the actress never mentioned that she's done. So she could return. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, as the title said, he will return.
I wasn't sure about that. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I know. I mean, honestly, I would say this: the first thing came to my mind. I was like, please make a movie about Star-Lord and Ant-Man. Make them like a team-up movie or something.
Yes, that would have been good. Yeah, no. Yeah. You convinced me there.
But I will say this: I really like the moment, that he came to Earth and kind of reunited with the grandfather. I love that moment.
Beautiful.
It was really powerful, and so I love that. And also, again, Rocket becoming the fucking new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and also the new members, like we have Kraglin, Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, like he was in the comics. He was also a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and also one of the children that High Evolutionary created. We also got Phyla.
Yes.
As a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who in the comics was also a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
But really good.
Yeah, but as an adult, not as a child. And of course, Cosmo is with him as well.
Yep.
And I will say this: I just want to mention it briefly as well. I'm so thankful to James Gunn give the Guardians of the Galaxy their comic accurate costumes.
Yeah, that was good.
I love those outfits.
Yeah,
I love them. It was really brilliant. And also, I mean, that great scene when they were like all together in a new mission, and the music, what's the matter with you? Like, oh my, that hit me so hard, because, like, it reminds you of that scene with Star-Lord in the first movie.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it comes full circle. I mean, there are a few bits I just wanted to briefly mention before we wrap this up.
Go ahead.
First of all, the Marvel logo was amazing.
Yes.
I'm surprised we didn't bring this up. Like, absolutely brilliant. Like, I was watching it, went here, because I do think it is got a little bit. So because we got so many projects, you become immune to it. Like the DC logo that they did, it still feels a little bit fresher because they don't do enough projects where you feel like you're constantly seeing this. Obviously, we will now, because James Gunn will pick it up a lot. But the Marvel logo does feel very sort of like, okay, who have they added in? Because with every project, they seem to add at least one new scene. Like, obviously, when, as I said, I'm rewatching the movies and I'm rewatching the Disney Plus shows. Every time a Disney Plus show ends, the next one you see one of them characters. But like I said, I just thought, so I was just a little bit like, okay, it's starting now. Oh, wait, like, absolutely, what a fantastic start. Like, you just expect to just see Iron Man. You don't, you see Star-Lord. Absolutely brilliant. That was great. And then the second bit, what I thought was really great was, and again, you do switch off. I will be very, very surprised if a lot of people really pay attention when you want to see the final scene. The end credit scene. Obviously, you have the mid credit, the end credit. The mid credit you do watch, but the end credit for me, we actually did. Got a bit of a side story. Me and a friend who, when we watched the Ant-Man movie, was seriously, we were just sitting back. I'll have to move my mic for this. Just sit back in the chairs, just watching it and just picking up on like the strangest names. So you just like, oh, that's a good name. Oh, that's a wicked name, because you've got so many people involved. So that's what entertains us. But obviously the pictures of all the different moments in the Guardians movies. And you do think to yourself, like, they've only done 3 movies. because you do. It's not like it's like the Harry Potter franchise where they've got so many photos you can use, but you do. You go, you're not running out here, are you? You're not running out of these photos. Brilliant, and I just think it makes you try to, suddenly realize, they didn't do that for Iron Man 3. They didn't do that for Captain America: Civil War. They won't. I don't think they'll do it. They didn't do it in Fall Love and Thunder. You do think to yourself like, wow, like so many people such care about these Guardians characters, and them types of moments add that really, really special quality. I thought that them two bits particularly shown how incredible and how aware they are about this group known as Guardians of the Galaxy.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if the intro of the Marvel Studios, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was James Gunn's idea.
Yeah, I think it would. I think it would be.
And again, I agree with you that those credits with those pictures, that was
amazing.
So nostalgic and at the same time amazing, But again, the one thing that really hit me hard was that music in the mid-credit scene when they were going in action with the new members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'll be honest, James Gunn also said, he really wished to see the new Guardians of the Galaxy in action in future movies, but of course, this time with different director, and again. Yeah. And again, I really cannot wait to see these new members in action. Which, of course, definitely we're gonna see them together. We're definitely gonna see them again, definitely. So overall, again, as I said at the very beginning, this was a magnificent send-off to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and as James Gunn in the MCU as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, he's been so involved. He's been so involved in all. Incredible, responsibilities. I'm a big believer. I think we spoke about this on the Dawn for DC Shadow Council episode we did. That he's learned from Kevin Feige. He's learned how to do it, and obviously he got the opportunity when he did the Suicide Squad movie. Really, paid massive attention and really loved doing these type of movies. So you definitely do feel like that there's that mutual respect between Kevin Feige and Gunn, and he's learned a lot from him.
Yeah, definitely. And I cannot wait to see what he's going to do with the DC universe this time. And what I've seen, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I cannot wait to see Superman Legacy. Because this movie shows you that he will not, that he doesn't just do comedy. He can do also serious, emotional, and dark moments as well.
Yeah, it really pays credit and honor just the different genres he can bring into his movies. And like I said, he loves this genre. He'll love this genre, and he's going to be such involved in, even if he might not direct some of them, he's definitely going to be writing, and he's going to have that producer style of evaluating and adding his own little charm. When you watch the movies he particularly might not be part of, in a creative standpoint, you go, that's a James Gunn bit.
Yeah, that's a James Gunn. You have to remember, Peter Safran is is doing the producing, the business side, and James Gunn will do the creative side.
It's a great combo. It's a great combination.
Great combination. I agree. So yeah, overall, we're done, sadly, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I have to say immediately from 1 to 10, I'm giving Guardians of the Galaxy a solid 9. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I thought about a 9.5, but there were some brief nitpicky things, but again, they're very nitpicky things that I have against this movie. But again, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, solid 9. Solid 9 out of 10. You?
Solid 8.
Fair enough. Fair enough indeed. So with everything said and done, we are officially done.
It's a sad moment.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, here we are at the very end of this, another live stream that we did. You guys, without me repeating it, you know the drill about like, comment, subscribe, and all that. So overall, like always, Lord of Shadows signing off.
Thank you very much to this incredible man. He's fantastic. He's always been such a great co-host, on so many projects, and I love him very much. Film Review Central signing off.
And see you all guys next time.
I am Groot.